Is he still missing one?
I thought so.
Yeah, I did too.
Patriots?
No, the Jets.
I don't think they're a spot. I think if they get to the playoffs, maybe win a game, first time in 14 years in the postseason, you don't think New York's gonna be going crazy?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm serious. Nobody's gonna be like killing them.
Thing.
That's why I'm not in charge of S-Bob.
So I still think you're missing a team. Because I agree with you on the Jets.
Okay.
If the Jets make the AFC Championship game and lose to the Chiefs, nobody's going to say Aaron failed. No one's going to lose their job.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Okay. So that's all they talk about the Jets. I reviewed this whole clip before because it was supposed to be at the Detroit Lions, but this whole segment just took a weird turn. But I wanted to highlight this because I just did a clip recently about Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, and Nick Wright completely said the opposite. He said anything short of a Super Bowl is a failure for Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. That's what he said. And he went on and on and on about it and just kept railing on the Jets and railing on Aaron and how much of a disaster it is. And, you know, he just kept doubling down on his criticism of Aaron and setting up the expectations that it is a failure. Failure. Now he's saying it's not. Now, I am all for changing your mind. I emphasize changing your mind all the time. I change my mind. I can do one clip at like 9 o'clock, and then I do another clip at 10 o'clock, and I could have the completely opposite feeling. I could have my mind of saying, okay, you know what? I think the Lions are S-Bob, Super Bowl or bust. And then I watch this clip, and by the end of it, I'm like, actually, I don't think they are anymore, right? Like, so I change my mind all the time, and I encourage everyone to change their mind. This feels weird to me, though. Like, again, I'm all for changing your mind, but this feels wrong because he was so emphatic. He was so passionate about it being a failure that if Aaron Rodgers has to win a Super Bowl, otherwise it is a failure. Now he's just like casual, like, yeah, I totally agree. And that's when I think, when it becomes weird to me is, because when I change my mind, at least I try to do this, it's a little bit harder when you're just making clips like this and doing reactions, is that I'll say, listen, I thought before, or I know I said this before, but I feel this way now, right? Like I tried to address that I changed my mind, right? Rather than just be like, well, this is what my thoughts have been this whole time. Now, again, since this is live TV, like they only have so much time to talk. They are on these kind of tight time segments where they even have like in their ear, like, hey, we're going to be going to commercial and all that. So I get how sometimes that can happen. But that little section stood out to me, honestly, because they did a whole segment about how Aaron Rodgers has to win a Super Bowl or everything is a failure with the Jets. And now he's just like, yeah, they can win. They can get to the AFC Championship game. Right? Like the whole thing was, I think the question was, what would be considered a successful season for Aaron Rodgers? And it was Super Bowl. That's what Nick said. And he laid out all the arguments. And I just think, like, does that mean he didn't believe that in the moment? Or does he not believe this in the moment? Because this seems more genuine. This seems more honest to me. That he's conceding, yeah, you know what, if the Jets make it to the AFC Championship game and lose, they'll be happy with that. And no one, because he says no one will see Aaron as a failure. And that's when my ears started to my head was about to explode, because it's like, you specifically said just last week, I'm pretty sure it was last week, that Aaron Rodgers would be a failure if he doesn't win a Super Bowl. And I'm like, that's crazy. Coming back from an Achilles tear and just getting to the playoffs will be huge. And now it's like, so I'm just, that throws me off so much, because I'm always trying to figure out what is the reality, what is the honest take. And that is something that I really respect of Chris Broussard, what I respect of Colin Cowherd. That's why Colin, honestly, my favorite, because at least I think he's being most honest and genuine with his takes and not trying to manipulate the narrative. And that's why Colin changes his mind. And, and listen, Colin also will sometimes kind of act like he's always held an opinion when he's changed it sometimes. But he also has that whole segment where Colin was right, where Colin was wrong. So I totally respect that. But it is becoming increasingly more difficult to know when someone is being honest versus just saying whatever they think is going to be controversial, get clicks, earn brownie points with the fan base, whatever it may be. So I'm just curious, like, what do you guys think? Like, how did he just go from last week to him saying anything short of a Super Bowl will be a failure or not? Or do you think Brew, like, because I think if Brew changed his mind in that segment, he would have said, right, I originally thought that the Jets were Super Bowl or bust, but after we had our segment last week, you convinced me that, yes, if they make it to the AFC Championship game and lose to the Chiefs, that'll be okay. I'm just, like I said, it's genuinely thrown me off because we know how much Nick hates Aaron Rodgers, right? And because of political reasons more than anything. And so it's just that I wonder now how he's going to treat the season. Because if Aaron Rodgers, like, is he going to taper that back at all? Is he going to double down? Like, what's he going to do? Like, how is he going to treat the season? Because he was setting up the Jets this season to essentially rail on them every chance he could. Every chance he could. Every loss, every down play, every interception, incompletion. It was, I told you. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, they're failures. They're bums. Get them out of here. And now he's like, no, AFC Championship game would be great. So, yeah, I don't know. It's thrown me for a loop. I'll be completely honest. Because I have high expectations for the New York Jets. I think Aaron Rodgers, especially, will make a healthy return. And if he stays healthy and the Jets stay healthy, I think they are legitimate contenders in the AFC. And I think they will surprise a lot of people. And to me, I don't put them as Super Bowl or bust personally. I get, right, everyone wants to win a Super Bowl, but I don't think that the Jets, if they don't get to the Super Bowl, they'll be disappointed. I think it is interesting because it's always easy to say that a team will be happy with making it to the AFC game. I think if the Jets get to the AFC Championship game and lose to the Chiefs, I think a lot of fans will be disappointed. I do. I'll be honest with you. It's like if the 49ers, Brock Purdy got injured, so that's why they were also extra disappointed. But if the Eagles got to that NFC Championship game and lost to the 49ers, there would be massive disappointment. There wouldn't be this feeling of, all right, there we go, they're getting closer and closer. They almost got to the Super Bowl. I don't think they have that optimism. And I think also with the Jets, because I'm just looking at it strictly from a diehard fan perspective at this point. Because to me, it would be a successful season for Aaron Rodgers and the Jets to make the playoffs because people are saying, like Nick Wright, that they won't even make the playoffs, right? That they are literally bums, that Aaron Rodgers is not worth the squeeze. The juice is not worth the squeeze was his exact words. And Greg Jennings was like, you're crazy. What are you talking about? So I think even if the Jets just make it to the playoffs, that is, see, you have no idea what you're talking about. And then winning a playoff game, I think at least winning one playoff game to me is like, that's impressive. You all said that Aaron is washed. He can't come back from his Achilles. You all made fun of him for months and months and months and months and months. So I think just winning a playoff game at the very least would be pretty impressive, and I would feel good about that. But if you're a diehard Jets fan and you saw Aaron is coming to change the Jets, to finally get you competitive, I think him getting injured and then now losing that whole year has built up the pressure, like the angst, like the feeling of, oh, come on. We know Aaron only has so many more good years left into him. It's got to be like, it's kind of now or never. And I think like if they do lose to the Chiefs, or I think it'll be somewhat better if they lose to the Chiefs versus another team. If they lose to the Ravens, they lose to the Bengals. Like I think there is that, and I said this with the Detroit Lions, that if you lose to the Chiefs, I think there is that feeling of like, all right, they are the Kansas City Chiefs. It is Andy Reid. It is Patrick Mahomes. They are in a dynasty. You could only be so upset about that. But I think the Jets would be really furious if they lost to the Texans, the Ravens, the Bengals, any of these other random teams that may come up. I think they would be upset. Or if they get to the Super Bowl, let's say they get to the Super Bowl, and I think if they lose to any team in the NFC, they're going to be really disappointed. Really disappointed. Again, I don't know if you're firing the coaches and all this, because again, when I say bust, I say it as, the way I look at it is the organization and the fan base are going to be happy or really disappointed. Not so much that they need to fire all the coaches and get rid of everyone and cut bait and do a whole rebuild. That's not the way how I see it when something is Super Bowl or bust. It's just the energy in the room, in the fan base. Are you going to be happy? The Detroit Lions last season were not Super Bowl or bust. They were disappointed that they didn't get to go to the Super Bowl, of course, but at the end of the season, you could be satisfied. Wow, we won our playoff game. We got to the NFC Championship game. That was crazy. Never thought, who would have thought? And there you go. Kind of the same thing with the Eagles when they got to the Super Bowl. Again, they were obviously upset, but I think the general consensus was, for the most part, okay, that was a wildly exciting season, a play of way. If only things bounced a little bit differently, they could have won. But I don't think it was like, oh my God, this is a disaster. And I think that that's where the Jets can be in multiple levels, depending on kind of maybe the intensity of the fan we are talking about. But organizationally, I think the Jets themselves would be thrilled. Honestly, the front office, I think if they just won one playoff game, they would probably feel pretty good about it. They would be like, okay, yeah, we did something. We finally did something. We're finally moving in the right direction. But then the real question would be is, how good did Aaron look? Because if Aaron still, right, and it's also why you lose. I think this is the last thing that I'll say. The big question is like why you lose. If Aaron Rodgers is kind of being dragged along like Peyton Manning's final year, right, and you lose, then I think a lot of people will be disappointed, because then they would be like, what the heck? Why did we double down on an old injured quarterback? Why didn't we make a play at a younger quarterback? Why didn't we get Dak Prescott? Why didn't we go and get, I don't even know, Gardner Minshew, like anyone, right? Like something. Why don't we draft? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? Like, I think there would be more anger in the room. If Aaron Rodgers balls out or just plays at a very high level, top 10 quarterback, then there would be the feeling of, this was the right move. Aaron is for real. He still has some good years left into him. Let's double down. Let's do what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did and get the Gronks, the Browns. Like, let's make some of these moves. Let's do what the Rams did with Stafford and go out and get OBJ. Go out and get Von Miller. Like, I think there would be more of a double down. And then the following year, then it really would be Super Bowl or bust. So, but yeah, I thought this clip was interesting. So I know it was a very short clip, but I was curious to see what all of your thoughts were on this and why the sudden change of heart from Nick Wright. So let me know in the comments below. What do you guys think about the Jets? Do you think that they would be happy and satisfied with losing to the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC game? Do you think it would be a failure, anything short of a Super Bowl, like Nick originally said, but now changed his mind? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.